Práctica diaria de inglés. Escucha, habla y mejora tus habilidades. Al terminar, practica más en nuestra app. Gratis. Link abajo. Comienza a practicar.
I read the news this morning. I read the news this morning.
Leí las noticias esta mañana.
I read the news this morning. I read the news this morning. The article was about a recent event. The article was about a recent event.
El artículo trataba sobre un evento reciente.
The article was about a recent event. The article was about a recent event. They reported a big accident downtown. They reported a big accident downtown.
Informaron sobre un gran accidente en el centro.
They reported a big accident downtown. They reported a big accident downtown. The news talked about the weather. The news talked about the weather.
Las noticias hablaron sobre el clima.
The news talked about the weather. The news talked about the weather. It was a short news story. It was a short news story.
Era una noticia breve.
It was a short news story. It was a short news story. I saw the news on TV. I saw the news on TV.
Vi las noticias en la televisión.
I saw the news on TV. I saw the news on TV. She summarized the main points. She summarized the main points.
Ella resumió los puntos principales.
She summarized the main points. She summarized the main points. The reporter gave a quick update. The reporter gave a quick update.
El reportero dio una actualización rápida.
The reporter gave a quick update. The reporter gave a quick update. He told me the news in a few words. He told me the news in a few words.
Él me contó las noticias en pocas palabras.
He told me the news in a few words. He told me the news in a few words. The headline caught my attention. The headline caught my attention.
El titular llamó mi atención.
The headline caught my attention. The headline caught my attention. They discussed the top story. They discussed the top story.
Hablaron sobre la noticia principal.
They discussed the top story. They discussed the top story. The news was about a local issue. The news was about a local issue.
La noticia era sobre un asunto local.
The news was about a local issue. The news was about a local issue. I watched the news on my phone. I watched the news on my phone.
Vi las noticias en mi móvil.
I watched the news on my phone. I watched the news on my phone. The summary was easy to understand. The summary was easy to understand.
El resumen era fácil de entender.
The summary was easy to understand. The summary was easy to understand. She explained the news clearly. She explained the news clearly.
Ella explicó las noticias con claridad.
She explained the news clearly. She explained the news clearly. He read a news summary online. He read a news summary online.
Él leyó un resumen de noticias en línea.
He read a news summary online. He read a news summary online. They talked about the economy. They talked about the economy.
Hablaron sobre la economía.
They talked about the economy. They talked about the economy. The news focused on sports today. The news focused on sports today.
Las noticias se centraron en los deportes hoy.
The news focused on sports today. The news focused on sports today. She gave a brief overview. She gave a brief overview.
Ella dio una visión general breve.
She gave a brief overview. She gave a brief overview. He summed up the main idea. He summed up the main idea.
Él resumió la idea principal.
He summed up the main idea. He summed up the main idea. The story was about a new policy. The story was about a new policy.
La historia trataba sobre una nueva política.
The story was about a new policy. The story was about a new policy. I listened to the news at lunch. I listened to the news at lunch.
Escuché las noticias durante el almuerzo.
I listened to the news at lunch. I listened to the news at lunch. The news report was short and clear. The news report was short and clear.
El informe de noticias fue breve y claro.
The news report was short and clear. The news report was short and clear. They mentioned the key facts. They mentioned the key facts.
Mencionaron los datos clave.
They mentioned the key facts. They mentioned the key facts. She told the story in simple terms. She told the story in simple terms.
Ella contó la historia en términos sencillos.
She told the story in simple terms. She told the story in simple terms. He shared the latest update. He shared the latest update.
Él compartió la última actualización.
He shared the latest update. He shared the latest update. The article talked about a new law. The article talked about a new law.
El artículo hablaba sobre una nueva ley.
The article talked about a new law. The article talked about a new law. They gave the most important details. They gave the most important details.
Dieron los detalles más importantes.
They gave the most important details. They gave the most important details. He described what happened. He described what happened.
Él describió lo que ocurrió.
He described what happened. He described what happened. She explained the event step by step. She explained the event step by step.
Ella explicó el evento paso a paso.
She explained the event step by step. She explained the event step by step. The news was about an election. The news was about an election.
La noticia era sobre unas elecciones.
The news was about an election. The news was about an election. They reported on a big storm. They reported on a big storm.
Informaron sobre una gran tormenta.
They reported on a big storm. They reported on a big storm. I read a summary in the newspaper. I read a summary in the newspaper.
Leí un resumen en el periódico.
I read a summary in the newspaper. I read a summary in the newspaper. The news covered several topics. The news covered several topics.
Las noticias cubrieron varios temas.
The news covered several topics. The news covered several topics. She focused on the main points. She focused on the main points.
Ella se centró en los puntos principales.
She focused on the main points. She focused on the main points. He gave a quick summary of the news. He gave a quick summary of the news.
Él dio un resumen rápido de las noticias.
He gave a quick summary of the news. He gave a quick summary of the news. They reported the story accurately. They reported the story accurately.
Informaron la historia con precisión.
They reported the story accurately. They reported the story accurately. I read the highlights online. I read the highlights online.
Leí los aspectos destacados en línea.
I read the highlights online. I read the highlights online. She shared a news summary with me. She shared a news summary with me.
Ella compartió un resumen de noticias conmigo.
She shared a news summary with me. She shared a news summary with me. He explained the news to his friend. He explained the news to his friend.
Él explicó las noticias a su amigo.
He explained the news to his friend. He explained the news to his friend. The news talked about a protest. The news talked about a protest.
Las noticias hablaron sobre una protesta.
The news talked about a protest. The news talked about a protest. They gave the latest information. They gave the latest information.
Dieron la información más reciente.
They gave the latest information. They gave the latest information. She read the news aloud. She read the news aloud.
Ella leyó las noticias en voz alta.
She read the news aloud. She read the news aloud. He said the news was surprising. He said the news was surprising.
Él dijo que las noticias eran sorprendentes.
He said the news was surprising. He said the news was surprising. They talked about a famous person. They talked about a famous person.
Hablaron sobre una persona famosa.
They talked about a famous person. They talked about a famous person. The article was about a discovery. The article was about a discovery.
El artículo trataba sobre un descubrimiento.
The article was about a discovery. The article was about a discovery. She told me the most important part. She told me the most important part.
Ella me contó la parte más importante.
She told me the most important part. She told me the most important part. He explained the news in simple words. He explained the news in simple words.
Él explicó las noticias con palabras sencillas.
He explained the news in simple words. He explained the news in simple words. They covered the story briefly. They covered the story briefly.
Cubrieron la historia brevemente.
They covered the story briefly. They covered the story briefly. The news was about a health issue. The news was about a health issue.
La noticia era sobre un problema de salud.
The news was about a health issue. The news was about a health issue. She shared the top headlines. She shared the top headlines.
Ella compartió los titulares principales.
She shared the top headlines. She shared the top headlines. He summarized the article quickly. He summarized the article quickly.
Él resumió el artículo rápidamente.
He summarized the article quickly. He summarized the article quickly. The report was short but detailed. The report was short but detailed.
El informe fue breve pero detallado.
The report was short but detailed. The report was short but detailed. They talked about world events. They talked about world events.
Hablaron sobre eventos mundiales.
They talked about world events. They talked about world events. I found a short version of the story. I found a short version of the story.
Encontré una versión corta de la historia.
I found a short version of the story. I found a short version of the story. She gave a short explanation. She gave a short explanation.
Ella dio una explicación breve.
She gave a short explanation. She gave a short explanation. He talked about the news at dinner. He talked about the news at dinner.
Él habló sobre las noticias durante la cena.
He talked about the news at dinner. He talked about the news at dinner. They explained the facts clearly. They explained the facts clearly.
Explicaron los hechos con claridad.
They explained the facts clearly. They explained the facts clearly. The news talked about traffic changes. The news talked about traffic changes.
Las noticias hablaron sobre cambios en el tráfico.
The news talked about traffic changes. The news talked about traffic changes. She told me the main idea. She told me the main idea.
Ella me contó la idea principal.
She told me the main idea. She told me the main idea. He read a short article on his tablet. He read a short article on his tablet.
Él leyó un artículo corto en su tableta.
He read a short article on his tablet. He read a short article on his tablet. They gave a summary on the radio. They gave a summary on the radio.
Dieron un resumen en la radio.
They gave a summary on the radio. They gave a summary on the radio. I listened to the news podcast. I listened to the news podcast.
Escuché el podcast de noticias.
I listened to the news podcast. I listened to the news podcast. She explained the news story. She explained the news story.
Ella explicó la historia de noticias.
She explained the news story. She explained the news story. He talked about the news calmly. He talked about the news calmly.
Él habló sobre las noticias con calma.
He talked about the news calmly. He talked about the news calmly. They shared the top 5 stories. They shared the top 5 stories.
Compartieron las 5 noticias principales.
They shared the top 5 stories. They shared the top 5 stories. The news summary was interesting. The news summary was interesting.
El resumen de noticias fue interesante.
The news summary was interesting. The news summary was interesting. She described the article simply. She described the article simply.
Ella describió el artículo de forma sencilla.
She described the article simply. She described the article simply. He told the story in a few sentences. He told the story in a few sentences.
Él contó la historia en pocas frases.
He told the story in a few sentences. He told the story in a few sentences. They gave a short update at noon. They gave a short update at noon.
Dieron una actualización breve al mediodía.
They gave a short update at noon. They gave a short update at noon. I watched the morning news. I watched the morning news.
Vi las noticias de la mañana.
I watched the morning news. I watched the morning news. She read the news before work. She read the news before work.
Ella leyó las noticias antes del trabajo.
She read the news before work. She read the news before work. He wrote a short summary. He wrote a short summary.
Él escribió un resumen breve.
He wrote a short summary. He wrote a short summary. They explained the news on the show. They explained the news on the show.
Explicaron las noticias en el programa.
They explained the news on the show. They explained the news on the show. The article was easy to follow. The article was easy to follow.
El artículo era fácil de seguir.
The article was easy to follow. The article was easy to follow. She talked about today's news. She talked about today's news.
Ella habló sobre las noticias de hoy.
She talked about today's news. She talked about today's news. He summarized last night's news. He summarized last night's news.
Él resumió las noticias de anoche.
He summarized last night's news. He summarized last night's news. They mentioned the big story first. They mentioned the big story first.
Mencionaron la noticia más importante primero.
They mentioned the big story first. They mentioned the big story first. The news was about a plane crash. The news was about a plane crash.
La noticia era sobre un accidente aéreo.
The news was about a plane crash. The news was about a plane crash. She gave a short version of the news. She gave a short version of the news.
Ella dio una versión corta de las noticias.
She gave a short version of the news. She gave a short version of the news. He told me the latest report. He told me the latest report.
Él me contó el último informe.
He told me the latest report. He told me the latest report. They talked about a science topic. They talked about a science topic.
Hablaron sobre un tema de ciencia.
They talked about a science topic. They talked about a science topic. The story was clear and short. The story was clear and short.
La historia era clara y breve.
The story was clear and short. The story was clear and short. She highlighted the main facts. She highlighted the main facts.
Ella destacó los hechos principales.
She highlighted the main facts. She highlighted the main facts. He commented on the news story. He commented on the news story.
Él comentó la historia de noticias.
He commented on the news story. He commented on the news story. They read the news together. They read the news together.
Leían las noticias juntos.
They read the news together. They read the news together. The article was 1 page long. The article was 1 page long.
El artículo tenía una página de largo.
The article was 1 page long. The article was 1 page long. She told the news in her own words. She told the news in her own words.
Ella contó las noticias con sus propias palabras.
She told the news in her own words. She told the news in her own words. He explained the issue clearly. He explained the issue clearly.
Él explicó el problema con claridad.
He explained the issue clearly. He explained the issue clearly. They focused on the headline. They focused on the headline.
Se centraron en el titular.
They focused on the headline. They focused on the headline. The news story was simple. The news story was simple.
La historia de noticias era sencilla.
The news story was simple. The news story was simple. She understood the main idea. She understood the main idea.
Ella entendió la idea principal.
She understood the main idea. She understood the main idea. He gave a quick news recap. He gave a quick news recap.
Él dio un resumen rápido de noticias.
He gave a quick news recap. He gave a quick news recap. They discussed the summary. They discussed the summary.
Discutieron el resumen.
They discussed the summary. They discussed the summary. I found a summary online. I found a summary online.
Encontré un resumen en línea.
I found a summary online. I found a summary online. She listened to the news summary. She listened to the news summary.
Ella escuchó el resumen de noticias.
She listened to the news summary. She listened to the news summary. He talked about the latest updates. He talked about the latest updates.
Él habló sobre las últimas actualizaciones.
He talked about the latest updates. He talked about the latest updates. The news covered a crime story. The news covered a crime story.
Las noticias cubrieron una historia criminal.
The news covered a crime story. The news covered a crime story. They interviewed a witness. They interviewed a witness.
Entrevistaron a un testigo.
They interviewed a witness. They interviewed a witness. She repeated the news in short form. She repeated the news in short form.
Ella repitió las noticias en forma breve.
She repeated the news in short form. She repeated the news in short form.
Gracias por ver. Suscríbete a nuestro canal y activa las notificaciones para obtener nuevos vídeos a tiempo y continuar tu viaje de aprendizaje de inglés.